Hi everyone. This is a simple recording to demonstrate how I teach and my teaching skills, my illustrative skills, how I break down things to students. But I can guarantee you that I'm a very gifted teacher. I know how to teach even novices and non-specialists to understand the complex topics in computer science. But for the course, for what I intend to teach for the company, I really focused on web development courses, programming, and website design. So I'll do a very basic stuff. I'll try to bring in website design. I'll try to bring in HTML, CSS stats for website design. I'll also try to bring in stuff on Python and then technically explain one or two things for the very novice, just to show my teaching style. So it's going to be like 15 minutes. Looking at the time right now, so I should be done in about 15 minutes. So let's get started. So welcome to this class. So I have opened a code editor. So this code editor is called Visual Studio. Visual Studio. So there are different code editors, text editors actually, that can help you to write your programs and then execute it to run. But I think I'm comfortable with this, so it's free to download. You can use Sublime Text, you can use Context, Notepad++, and the rest. But this is Visual Studio, so I'll use it for HTML, CSS, then Python. So let's get started. So I have this folder test on my desktop. So if I add a file like index.html, I add a file like index.html there. Yes. So what I intend to do is so I have my HTML. I'm just guessing we've discussed this already. Now, HTML looks like this. If you are not familiar with it, it looks like in a family, we have we have grandparents, something like that. So grandparents enclose this. So everyone that grandparents give birth to, you can have parents. So something like this. And then parents can give birth to children, something like this. Children can give birth to grandchildren. So the style here is that when a tag opens, it doesn't close midway. It closes actually embedding every child that it covers. Okay. For example, you cannot say great great grandmother, and then you now come and say something like um, grandmother, which should be inside of it, and then you close it this way. No, this is wrong. This is wrong because this opened is supposed to close after everything that is in it. So you follow that style. And another reason, you probably ask, why don't I just write everything on this step, this first step? No, you don't have to do that. Actually, it causes no problem for HTML, but it does causes problem for programming languages like Python. So this is called indentation. This space is indentation, just to make it easier to read, make the code very readable. So once you indent like that, and this is something you can call an opening tag, and then this one is a closing tag. Why? What's the difference? Opening tags just have less than sign, greater than sign, whereas closing tags have less than sign, then slash before the name of the tag, and then closing. So you observe that in all of this. So that's as easy as ABC. So we use that information to see how we can quickly build a small HTML page. We can build a small HTML page. Oh God, so let's see how to do that. So HTML, like any human being, an HTML has head, just like every human being. You have head and you have body. Okay, so just like that, and that's all. And head and body are inside the person, so that's why nothing is outside of the HTML body. Every other thing outside the HTML body is not in HTML. It shouldn't be done. Okay, you put everything inside the HTML tag. So inside the body is where you write everything you want to show on your page. Welcome to my website, for example. So that is it. If we save this, okay, if we save this and then we run it from where it is saved, you double click the file and run, execute that file. So I think I should share my screen properly so that you can see. So essentially you see that it shows welcome to my website. So that is, so if I change this to my new change, so it will change to my new change. So it changes to that. So whatever you update is inside. So, but how about writing something here like making, you see for now we have index.html, making something like this Zoom post attendee and all those things is also possible. Here, you come into your head and then add something like title. You have a title tag inside the head, not the body. And then there you can just write something, perfect sample, let's say. So if we run this again, we see that we have perfect sample. Most of the times you see some websites writing something like home something, home perfect site or welcome perfect. So that will also show perfectly. So you have your head tag and your body tag here, right? So let's continue. So inside of here, you have many other tags, like tags that are very common are those tags from Microsoft Word, like P, which stands for paragraph in Microsoft Word. So if I do that and have maybe several of them, you see that they'll be in paragraphs. So this is 2, this is 3. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so these are different paragraphs. So if, for instance, I wanted this first one to be bold, I can add that from my Microsoft, bold is B. Maybe I wanted the second one to be italicized. I can add that, okay, and I close it here. So I'm closing the text that it will make, so that it will make that text to be italicized, okay? So if you have underline, you can be sure. So the first one will be bold, the second italicized, and the third one underlined. So let's see how they go. So expectedly, you can see this. So what if you wanted to make things to be bigger? You can have, we have H1 to H5, we say H6 standard, yeah. So we have up to that. So I'll just make a few. I'll have H2 there. I'll have H3, and I have H4, perhaps one last one, H5. So there is H6. So one thing you should notice about these H styles is that apart from each of the different types bigger in standard, like H1 is the biggest, seconded by H2, H3, and then it goes. One thing you should understand that it has its own margin. You don't have to put it inside a paragraph. It has its own spaces on the top and the left and the right, and then it comes bold. When imagine this one, even when it's very small, smaller than this other text, but it's bold, is in bold text. So in any form you want to use H tags, you are free to use them. Okay. So, or we have other tags. We can do a lot of stuff here. For example, we can add symbols. For example, you often see something like that. Copy 2023 sample demo. All right. So if you see this in every traditional website in the 80s, in the 90s, I think some websites still have this these days. So that's symbol, this one. It shows you, see, copyright, okay? Copyright 2023. We have other symbols like dollar, we have pounds. This will show you a dollar sign, something like that. So that's by the way. So I'm going to show you something really interesting before I leave this part. Something I will show you would be, so let me remove this, would be what we call UL. So we have two types of lists in websites designing, and the first one is called ordered list, OL. Then the other one is called unordered list. So there is a difference between the two, but let's show you how it works. One ordered or unordered one, let me just put it that way. Unordered one, so we can have unordered two, unordered three. Okay, so we can have unordered two, we can have unordered three. So we can have ordered for these ones, OL. So we have ordered. So let me just remove this, and remove this. So essentially, you see the difference. So we see that the unordered one presents these bullet points, like bullets in Microsoft, whereas the ordered shows this one. But whichever you use, you can always use CSS to target this, all this, remove the margin, remove the padding, and then ensure that these things can be aligned, can be arranged in any format. Let me look at, imagine this. So consider this. This is a perfect example of all these lists. So you use CSS to change the orientation of this list. We will soon see how to do something like that. So actually, it's what you use to layer your menu on every home page, like about, okay, contact, and the rest. Okay, so and then we can use CSS to, yep, so you use CSS, and then so HTML, I forgot to mention, stands for hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language. Okay, so it's a markup language. You underlined what there is markup. Why? Because it presents the structure of web pages. Is very skeletal, no design in it, although some people can add some coloring, some designs, but they have limitations. HTML is just to present the basic structure of websites. Okay, so but there is another, can I call it language, that you can learn, which is CSS. So we can call this style.css. I'm creating the file. So CSS means cascading style sheets, cascading style sheet. Okay, so actually like the CSS. So that's what it means. So as you define your properties, they cascade below. So let's see how to implement CSS for this. Okay, so the way we do it is that we start by defining body and saying something like background red, for instance. Okay, and then let's see if our background will be red. What do you guess? It will not be red. So why? Because you've actually created your file, but you've not linked it to the HTML file. Okay, so HTML and CSS, one of the best marriages is when you provide a link tag here, link tag. Okay, this kind of tag is called a self-closing tag. We can go in depth on that during our training. So once you have that link tag, you add 3 properties like href, rel, and type. Okay, so href would be the name of this file. Exactly, it doesn't have to be style, but it does have to end with CSS. Okay, relationship means style sheet. It's a style sheet. Okay, so type text slash CSS. So once you define these 3, if we try our page again, this will be red. So we use CSS to target the HTML, design the HTML, make it, we can do a lot of fun stuff. You can change it to green. Okay, you can change the color. The color is for the text. You can change the color to yellow. Perhaps this is really rioting, but it's just for testing purposes. Okay, so you can have something like this. So you can make the text be bolder. It's fun, really, once you understand these properties. And in the larger class, I'll be able to explain the syntax of CSS, which is actually, let me explain already. So it selector, then you open these braces, and then you have property, and then value, property and value. Yeah. Okay. So so the selector being the body in this case, and then the property being background or color, any of them. There are several other properties, and the value being green or yellow, and you maintain this syntax. So you've written your CSS. Yeah, so that's a bit for our web design class. Let me rush over, because it's just a 15-minute course. Let me rush over into Python. We will not mix Python with this, but just a different file. So let's have our sample.py. Python needs to be installed on your system before it works. So a program, Python, when you hear backend developers or backend languages, Python is one of them, PHP one of them, ASP.NET, and the rest, Ruby, and the rest. So so the front-end languages, you can classify HTML, CSS, React, JavaScript, and the rest into front-end. So let's work with a back-end language now. So in programming, I would just like to start with something we call variables. Variables is a good place to start. Say somebody rushed into your house and then told you the number is 8, the number is 8. And then you say, which number? And then the person runs out. And then a great man comes into the house knocking and saying, can you add any number to the number I have in mind? Or let's say, if you add the number you have in mind and 5, what would be the answer, for instance? So you should expect you were holding 8 that the other person told you, and then this man has brought in 5. So this was held in your memory. So that 8 is called a variable. So when you add this number that this man has brought, 5, you can have something like 13. You can have something like 13. So this becomes your variable. You can use it different times. It's just like variables in mathematics. We have it in our calculators where we have memory, M plus, M minus. So you store those variables in containers. So Actually, a variable is defined as a container for storing data so that you can manipulate it, you can present it, you can reuse it multiple times later during your program execution. So we have variables defined. So in our case, we might just have, say, number one. So we can have 5. So we have number 2, we can have 64. Okay. So these are 2 variables. So if we want to see, we might just say num1 plus num2. So Python will print that for you if we click here. So it should print something like 71. 60. Oh, print now it's coming up. Should print something like 69 for us. Oh, let's go. So if that is going to waste our time, so this is it. So it has printed 69 a couple of times because I clicked it different times. So in any case, you change this to 6. So what do you expect? It should print 11 for us. So if we try this, it prints 11 for us. So there are different implementations of variables. For instance, we have first name, we have last name. Okay, these won't be numbers again. These numbers are called integers, whereas this with first name will be called strings, like John Doe. Okay, sorry, I'm rushing over this. I can take time to present this. So we now have first name and then L name. So, but notice how it will print. I just want you to notice how it will print. So it prints John Doe without the space, even when you provided space. This is not a correct way of doing it. So there is something called format string in Python. So it's really, really simple to use. So if we format this, separate the variables from the strings, then I think it should print properly. So we still had plus, I needed to remove this. So it should print properly. So this is called concatenation in Python and in programming languages. So we have several other features we can learn. So it's elaborate. I wish I had time, I would just continue with this. I hope you really enjoyed the little demo I had to do. I mention again, I'm a gifted teacher and I can teach and teach and teach and teach until you are satisfied, until even my students come out to teach me. So I enjoy teaching and I would love to teach if I have the opportunity for your organization. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye.